February 14th, 2023. That was the Greek Freaks' first ever playoff appearance out in Tempe, where they lost 40-34 to Binkus. And 365 days later, at the downtown Sun Devil Fitness Complex, they are back as the 2 seed, as they host the number 7 Team SLB, looking to advance to the downtown semifinals. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ahirson Hassan, and welcome back to another edition of the Greek Freaks pregame show, playoff edition this time. After 3 games where the Greek Freaks went 2-0-1, that is 2 wins, 0 losses, and 1 draw, they are back in the playoffs. Let's take a look at their last game, which was against the Disciples of the Father Devin Booker. A defensive performance down the stretch by the Greek Freaks. A lot of players missing shots from both teams, as it was the Disciples who led 22-17 at the half. So the Greek Freaks had to turn to second gear to try to get an equalizer and try to take the lead. And we saw it on this play here from Abe Mogelson. Take a look at this. Greek Freaks initially taking possession. They get the offensive rebound. Abe drives to the bucket. He goes to ground, but he gets the circus shot up and in and heads to the line to shoot an additional 1. It was a close game down the stretch with 6.9 seconds left. The Disciples were at the line, 38-35 in favor of them. The guy at the line misses 5.2 seconds left. The ball was in the hands of Tom Penn. He takes it up court, settles to the right wing, pops it up towards the basket, and makes it, sending the Greek Freaks bench into a frenzy. Of course, with no overtime, that was how the game was settled. A final score of 38-38 between the Greek Freaks and Disciples. Let's take a look at Tom and what he said after the game on what that shot meant to him and what he saw on that play.
So what happened was the play was for me inbounded to Jacob, and Jacob to get a shot, but my man went on to Jacob, and he's the best defender on their team, so Jacob gave it back to me. I sprinted up the court, and I low-key ran around everybody. I don't know if you see that, but I clicked them all, and I said, you know what Kobe would do?
A double-double as we saw last season. Abe Mogelson led the way as well with 9 points and 8 rebounds. His best performance in Season 4 and his best performance in quite a while. And Kavish Siddhartha was third with 7 points. Looking at the team stats now. Total field goal percentage went in favor of the Greek Freaks. 31% for them. Disciples of the Father Devin Booker was at 27%. 2-point field goals went heavily in favor of GF as they shot 41%. Disciples went for 28%. And rebounding finally went in the Greek Freaks' favor after definitely losing that battle last week against the Detroit Pistons. Against Disciples of the Father Devin Booker, they won that battle 38-30. So let's take a look at their next opponent, Team SLB, the number 7 seed in this tournament that won 69-53 over I Don't Know on Tuesday night. The game was tied early. It was very close early on as I Don't Know was using their length and getting their shots up from distance, but it was SLB that eventually took over towards the latter part of that first half, going on a 20-4 run in the final 11 minutes before the halfway point, and they led 36-22 as both teams headed back to the bench. They ended up putting a lot of their reserves in towards the past few minutes of the game. Now it's time for those freaking injuries. And we've done this segment a lot, folks, but this is going to be one that hurts a lot. Henry Smarto is doubtful for this game with work, with Arizona State taking on Oregon State. A little down the road from here at Desert Financial Arena in Tempe, Henry may be at the game as a rider. So with the big man out, we turn our attention to some of the other players that could step up in this pivotal playoff game as the Greek Freaks look to avoid being upset by Team SLB. I'll talk with head coach Andrew Durst about making it back to postseason play and what to expect tonight from the SDFC. Welcome back to the Greek Freaks pregame show. I'm Ahirson Hassan, joined by Greek Freaks head coach Andrew Durst for another episode of Coach's Corner. Coach, a lot to talk about. Fresh off that tie against the Disciples last week, first off, what was your reaction when Tom sent that ball into the basket?
I was just laughing in utter disbelief. It was ridiculous, and I loved every second of it. I mean, he didn't score all game. I know the shot wasn't falling. He had one that went in and out and just got robbed. So happy for him, man. Of course, it was Tom, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
The interesting stat about that, you talked about his struggles in that game. Up until that point, he only had 1 point in the entire game, and then the rest of his 3 points came from that shot.
I do want to shout out the Jack screen, though. That screen set it up. Beautiful play. We needed it.
Taking a look at the matchup coming up against Team SLB, you and I, along with many other players, were at that game. As we saw SLB take the victory 69-53. One of their key players, in fact, their sole key player, had 19 points, 14 of which in the first half. And I was talking with a lot of players about the defensive schemes involved with that. What's your approach to try to guard this guy?
I mean, yeah, as you said, I mean, he's their offense, and I'm glad to know he had 19 because we were wondering, like, how many of them scoring? I was thinking it was like 30, 19. That's good to know. So it's not a complete takeover, but it really feels like the way he gets to the rim, that's the main thing. The way he gets to the rim, the way he gets boards, he attacks, and he's just great under the basket, and he's winning in these finishing battles. I think we're going to really try to shut him down. I think the game plan is make someone else beat us. This guy wants to try to score 20 on us, and he wants to try to get, a double-double, 20 points, 20 boards. We're going to make the other guys do it. These other guys can play basketball, obviously. Like, they're solid. They can shoot. But they're going to be a better chance for us to win this game if we can just shut him down and then see what else happens.
A little bit of a shorter guy, but at the same time has a little bit of Abe Mogelson in him, a little bit of Kavish Siddhartha, a little bit of Henry Smarto as well, which brings me to my next point. Henry, most likely going to be out for this game, a guy that gets a bunch of minutes, one of the leaders in minutes on this team. How are you going to combat that? How are you going to try to spread it around? And more importantly, what does he bring to this team from an offensive and defensive perspective?
I mean, Henry, at the end of the day, is our anchor. I think he's our most valuable player. Best can obviously be up in the air, whatever, but he is our center, and he is going to anchor this team through whatever we need, whether we're playing zone, whether we're playing man, offense, defense, whatever. He is the rock that we need on this team, and without him, it's a very different scheme. We don't have another true center. We have guys like Finn Hogan, Luke Foster that can play some power forward. We have guys like Kavish and Abe that can play big but they're not centers. So at the end of the day, we're going to have to play some small ball. We're going to have to do the best we can with the guys we have. We have good basketball players, but it's a different team, especially going up against what we're going to play as a very big team. We're going to need guys to really step up because the void of Henry is big, but we want to win so we can see him again in next week's game.
The winner of this game takes on either Lob City U, CU in court, the number 3 seed, or Last Dance, the number 6 seed in the semifinals. Coach, one final question, especially with this game being 365 days after the first ever matchup for the Greek Freaks in the playoffs. What does this game mean to you? Because that game was very interesting. You guys hobbled in some ways into the playoffs, 1-1-1. One of the lower seeds, you played the 4 seed. It was a close game, but nonetheless ended up in defeat. This year, you're the favorite, and on paper, a really good favorite, 2nd seed compared to 7th seed. What has your team learned in that time? And I think more importantly, what has your team done to grow? Because there's so many pieces that you see on this team now that weren't there.
I mean, we have learned and grown a lot, absolutely. I mean, we are not the same team that we were then. Yeah, again, we did hobble into the playoffs. Our one win was a forfeit. But the thing is even in that game with a depleted roster, we couldn't get everybody there. The vibes were weird. Things weren't going our way. We couldn't get a good shot to bounce. We still competed and we still fought. We know we can hang with anybody. That's what we've learned in all of our winless seasons and our bad games and our good games. We can hang with anybody. So we just get our guys in the position to succeed tonight. They're ready. They don't want to lose again. And this means a lot to me to be back. I didn't know it was 365 days later. I think that's awesome. I know where I was then, and I'm glad to be back on the court for the Freaks, man. We're going to go out there and we're going to give it the best we have. It's going to be a tough matchup, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Greek Freaks shorthanded, but still looking for history as they try to continue this great season. And so we send it out to the downtown Phoenix Sun Devil Fitness Complex for the call of the playoff game. Here's some Hassan.